Okay, so we are back. I am going to make another quick batch. This is the way I would normally mix plaster. And we are going to cast a second version of a piece that Chella had made, a little bit more of her fingers and fist, I think. And we're going to do another version with this next step with this bubble wrap. Okay, so I'm going to get some water. And this time I'm actually using cold water, not fake cold water. I'm going to make a little bit larger of a batch. Okay, so this is the way I would do it when I'm going. I'm going to go a little slower than I would normally go, but not that much slower. Okay, so I go. I'm not going to pause too much. So you can see it's quickly slaking in. That's a fake island. That's nothing close to an island. Just kind of keep going. Again, I'll just pause for a second. You can see it's not an island. Not an island. A lot went in at once. So the fingers are kind of there to help you so you don't go too fast. You don't want to just dump it. You do want to let it go in so that it doesn't clump. If you let it go in too fast, it'll become lumpy. Okay, are we almost there? Okay, so now we're getting closer to an island, and we're going at a speed that more resembles a speed once you become kind of experienced. So there's still, it's taking a little time. So I'm just going to add a little bit to the periphery. And we're real close right now. But not quite. We're basically there where it would set up at this point. Just about where we are. But here we go. Okay, so we are there now. And I'm just going to now let it, so we have a little bit cresting, that's your island. And just add a little bit more for good measure. Okay, so now that is set. I'm going to just over here. I'm going to let it slake for about 30 seconds. This is a small batch. If you're making a larger batch, you could let it slake for a full minute. By letting it just kind of sit, it is going to make your mixing much smoother and much easier. Okay, so I'm now just going to take my hand. I'm just going to kind of work it through. Notice I'm not folding in bubbles as I work it in. I'm just mixing it. This is a lot better consistency than the batch that I made. This is really what you want. And at this point, if I was, say it was too thin and I added more plaster, it will become just a lumpy mess. So please never mix it before you have a proper island. In social distance teaching, I can come over and take a look while it's slaking to make sure you have enough. But you don't want to go too slow, or else what can happen to me will happen with you. So then I'm just going to quickly take my fingers. I'm just going to brush off that dust on the lid. I'm going to dip my hands over here in the water so that my hands stay clean. So it's always nice to have some water for yourself. Okay, so we're now going to take Chella's second fist, and maybe Chella, do you want to just, there's something a little different about this one that you had made, right? Yeah, so I'm going to kind of.
I can reach it later. So this one is a slightly larger. Let me see that off here.
I don't think we can hear you.
Oh, that's true.
You want to describe it really quick?
So this one is done with the same method as the last one, where I just kind of basically put my hands in some, like a big hunk of clay. But this time I put a little bit more of my fist another finger in here. So it's going to be kind of a larger volume. And then just again, I went around the outside and tried to seal off any cracks. Might have gotten kind of warped again. That's okay with me.
Okay, thank you so much, Cello. Okay, so now I'm going to do that same little, I'm going to just move this for a second. I forgot to do this step. So I'm just going to bounce it. And this time you're going to see some more bubbles. And I think the bubbles are really a good indicator. It's going to make your final project have a lot less surface defects. So I really encourage you to do this step. You can see those kind of bubbles coming to the surface and then popping. In mold making, bubbles can be your enemy. There's tricks to it. Okay, so now we'll take this here. And now I'm actually going to pour it up. One trick of actually reducing bubbles is doing a long, slow drip where you hit a side. So this is actually a nice method. How far? I'm going to just go up to there. Okay, and then I'm going to lift it. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour this up to the side. So it sets up. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead right now and fill the first one that we had already used once. And I'm going to add some more. So this time we're going to get some of the cracks. I mended that first one. And you know what, Chella, how would you feel if we join these two?
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay, so let's just join these. Let's give these a little, can we still see them, what I'm doing? Can you just use that cell phone and I'll just hand hold the cell phone. And I'm just going to grab a slightly different kind of burlap right here. And I'm just going to take some burlap. I'm going to stuff it in there. I'm going to take some burlap and I'm going to stuff it in there. Okay. So now I'm going to take a miso container, an old plastic container. I'm going to take my same sheet of bubble wrap. This is the exact same sheet. I'm just stuffing it in. Maybe with, yeah. Maybe make that a handheld one. I bet you're going to get better angles. We are learning as we go. So then I'm going to take a second one. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take this. I'm going to use that same idea I just demoed with the hands. I'm going to put the burlap, the bubble wrap over here. I'm going to take this, and I actually want the burlap to go in the bubble wrap to go in the same direction. So I'm going to go like this, and this time we're going to have a lot more of we're going to have a very different shape. What's going to happen? So I'm really almost casting a solid now. So one thing that I can do is I can let it be there, but I can also kind of bring it up the surface, and you can see it's still quite liquidy. As it starts to set up in the next, say, 10 minutes, it'll thicken up, and I could basically kind of, once it gets this more yogurty consistency, I could kind of do it. But what I've done just now by doing this is I've done what's called some people call it, I guess, a slip coat on here, or a print coat. I think I said slip coat. I meant to say print coat. And I'm just going to add a couple more pieces of burlap. I'll add the same burlap that we have over here. You know what, Chella? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add another step to our demo. Would you make sure you capture this? So what I'm doing is I'm now sticking burlap, and I'm basically making burlap bandages. And I'm going to stick that in, and I'm going to add a little bit of bubble wrap over here, a little plaster with the bubble wrap over here, with my fingers. I'm going to press that in. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I'm going to actually just use this volume right here. And I am just going to go for it. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And we'll see how hard that gets. And I've got a few more strips. And I've got some more plaster. And so I'm just going to do it. So you can't, once plaster gets too thick, you cannot kind of continue to add to it in this method. But until that point, when it's nice and liquidy, You can do just about anything with it. And I think we have enough plaster for one more piece. This is a really thick, not very absorbent burlap, to be totally honest with you all. But this will work just fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to connect these two, this piece over here and this piece over here. So we have a little bit of complexity to our shape. And you know what? I'm going to take this one out over here. You know what? I like that, what's happening. And I'm going to just make sure I have a nice amount. And I am just going to kind of overlap that. I am just going to go like this. And I don't know exactly what it's going to be, what it's going to look like, or how it's going to freeze, but I'm pretty happy. It looks like I have enough plaster for one more strip. So I'm really getting it all out there. Really getting it all. So you can see I'm really trying to scrape it. Really trying to scrape every last little bit out. Really trying to saturate all of that fabric, all of that fibers. And then I'm going to take it here, and I'm just going to overlap some more. And it looks like I have a little, just a teeny bit left. So take the smallest piece, and I don't have any more really in there. So I'm just going to dip from there. Because I have a nice solid block. One thing about plaster is it's real fast to make a solid block, but it uses a lot of material and it gets heavy really fast. So I encourage you to really think about how you can create surface and how you can create planes and how you can create shapes without giant masses. Every bit of plaster is a bit of a mountain that is removed. Every bit of plaster is some energy that was used to cook the limestone, to make the plaster, to the energy to truck the plaster. And so I encourage you, so now I'm just gonna, before this hardens up anymore, I'm just gonna scrape it out. Can you see that with your cell phone? I'm just gonna scrape it out. And I'm just gonna really try to get that so it kind of has a nice uniform. Getting it out. Really trying to get it all out. I'm just gonna take my fingers, get every last bit. Okay. So now this will need about 45 minutes. And this piece right here, I'm gonna leave flexible. I'm gonna leave that soft. And as this is forming up, I'm just gonna kind of get it to slide up there a little bit. This print coat is gonna be pretty thin, and I'm not sure we're gonna be patient enough for this video to let it firm up. But there's this kind of flexion point where it just kind of is gonna gel. And it becomes this kind of thick yogurt, and it's just starting. And I can actually feel the beginnings of the exothermic reaction. An exothermic reaction is a chemical reaction that creates heat. And plaster creates heat as it cures. It's a chemical reaction, and the plaster creates heat while it cures. So never put your whole hand or a body limb or a body part in plaster. It will be really bad. You can get third-degree burns. You can get amputated, all sorts of stuff. So I just lost power, or I can't press. It says 20% battery. I can't do it. But that, I think, is the end. And I'm going to dip my hands right now. I'm going to maybe chill you. I think the audio is still probably working. Yeah. I guess. Maybe you can just do the video over here. Let's just show. My hands are clean enough. Okay, I think the video is going to come back on. So I'm going to now, and Chilla, maybe with your handheld camera, you can come over here to the water, and I can just show you guys one or two things. So I'm taking this here, just really quickly before it sets up. This is when plaster is easiest to. Oh, I got that louder. So I'm cleaning this off. going to bring, for this purpose of this demo, this is a friend of mine's 4-year-old son's hand and her 6-year-old daughter's hand. And we made some molds together last February before the pandemic. And we just kind of were playing, we just mashed together. These are from alginate. So this is kind of the next step, the next level in accuracy, so to speak, and fidelity with mold making. But these are 2 different people's hands mashed together using this alginate mold. Then the other thing is we made a mold of one of their feet. This is I think this is the 4-year-old's foot. We made a mold in alginate, and then I basically ripped it open. We got 1 or 2 good casts. And then I essentially just started using that same burlap method to join it into this almost like this crown. So here, I'll step back for a second. And maybe Chella can take my mask off here for a second. This is the crown of feet. Okay. The mother of this child is a doctor, and she has now been vaccinated with her 2 vaccines. So the things are changing, but not fast enough. Okay. On that current events, thank you for joining us.